Hello and welcome to Edukemy's YouTube channel and editorial discussion for 28 April 2022. My name is Harsh Singh and in this video we shall discuss a few editorials. One of them is from today's Indian Express that is titled A Time to Revisit the School, and the second one is from The Hindu which is titled Building Back to Avert a Learning Catastrophe. The editorials gain prominence to understand the kind of issues that learning gap have caused after school lockdown and closure and how to reform the system. If you like this initiative, share some love through likes, comments and shares. This discussion becomes prominent to understand what is the reason that World Bank director level officer came to India and spoke about the learning poverty in the country. In these times when we speak that the poverty has reduced in India, IMF report and World Bank report, the learning poverty gap has increased in the country. So this article gains huge prominence to understand what are the crises and how we should avert this in the future. All right. So the article says that quite a few level of distress do exist in our society. The first level is that of income. People are not able to earn enough during the times of COVID. That is absolutely true because of various factors of lockdown. After that, the private school fees, they are also not less. They have been charging hefty fees, but during these times of COVID, when the classes are not open, even those times the school fees have not reduced. Over and above, the finances also have to be incurred when the parents have to purchase digital devices like laptops, iPads, smartphones, and provide them 3G and 4G connections every month. So expenditure on the parents do increase. Private expenditure on finances on online education has gone high. And over and above everything, there is possibility of another COVID wave. After another COVID wave, after the first wave, people thought it would be fine, but there was another wave, and after second wave, there was a third wave, and there is also being speculation about the fourth wave. So in this time, then this parents think that the going to a private school might not be the most advised thing, and spending so much. And the country has gone through more than 600 days of school closure. This is amongst the highest in the whole world. The South Asia and Latin America has gone through maximum number of school closure days, and this has caused immense learning gaps, also being touted as learning poverty in the country. And this poverty has also been calculated. For example, a small child who is of the age of 10 years should be able to read simple text, and earlier 50% people were not children were not able to read this text, and in India now that percentage is 70. So this is a very high degree of failure of learning. Not only that, when we see that education has been deprioritized, child learning has been deprioritized as far as the other fields of economy are concerned. For example, opening of movie theaters, opening of restaurants, opening of malls, they have been reprioritized as compared to child education. And this is the situation in India. This is not something that happens in the developed world. In developed world, school closure is the last thing to do and the first thing to open when there is a time of crisis. That means they respect education far more than what we do. And what are we doing through closing of schools is giving extra intergenerational inequity, because the child who has lost education will not be able to recover it. In fact, it takes twice as much time as the time missed school to increase and fill the gap. For example, if the child has not gone for the school for 1 year, the child will take 2 more years to be able to fill up this gap. So these are the kind of crisis that India faces in case of learning poverty. And COVID has been a good alibi here. The editorials say that we have been waiting for vaccination for children. We have been saying that the protocols in schools have been unmanageable, and now that in times of say suppose increase in number of cases, the schools should go under partial closure, or some schools have switched to hybrid mode, sometimes online, sometimes offline. And the times when they say 50% of students should come on Monday, Wednesday and Friday, and the other 50 on the other days, these are various alibi to present a very mediocre quality of education. What is required is to provide full time education to children in the offline mode. There have been number of reports which keep saying that public health is very much linked to public education. This has been spoken of not only in India but everywhere. So when we look at children health, it should be viewed from the eyes of children education as well. This is a necessary for collaboration. Why? Because school is not only a place where children learn and study, they also go for midday meal, Poshan Abhiyan scheme. They also go and develop the parity between various genders. There is female empowerment. And not only that, the children learn purpose in life. They are able to interact with others, and they develop a sense of dignity, a purpose, something to do in life. So they gain livelihood and a vision for future, and this is what the school provides. In western countries also, 90% of the education is under government control, and government does all these activities, right, providing hot meals, uniform, books, medical care. So school should not be viewed as only a mode of education and studies. This is also about a lot of other things, right? And speaking about disease, children catching COVID and catching a severe level of COVID is a rarity. This has been spoken of by the scientists themselves. And there's a greater possibility of children catching dengue, malaria, other kind of fever like typhoid, and they need to be prevented that, rather than just looking at COVID, right? So COVID is almost an alibi, and the government needs to be more proactive here. Why? Is because the government has been giving huge subsidy in other fields. We speak about it, no? For example, agricultural subsidy, food subsidy, electricity, gas, everything has been subsidized for the people. And why not subsidize education? Why not give students free uniform, books, shoes, refreshment, and ensure a good quality so that people are attracted to this kind of education? High quality standard stuff is given to school going children in the developed countries, and over 90% of those children go to government schools, and this is government funded, right? Now parents have understood that private education is not helping them, and government needs to start funding this education. And even online education is not the best form of education, especially for a small child who is learning. It is because the magic of learning happens in interactions, and not everybody is able to have these smart devices to teach. The government education as now has not been happening as well. Government has not even been funding the education very well these days. In fact, India spends only 3.5% public expenditure as compared to the world average of 4.2% of the GDP. 3.5% by public expenditure and approximately 2.5% of the private expenditure. This is what India expends, and the idea has been to increase this 3.5% to 6% of public expenditure as proportion of GDP. And if you look at the developed world, they spend more than 6%. That's absolutely true. India must be doing that. When we provide subsidy, we must provide education also its value. But the situation in the country has been grim. There has been an increase in private school education. Private school education in the last 30 years, they have grown from 3% percentage of presence of private school to 30%. And government schools have only declined in the number and proportion present. In fact, the number of students going to government school have also declined. They declined from around 57% in the last decade to less than 50% now. Less than 50%. But yes, during COVID times, it has risen now. And that is why we must give more focus to government education. So see, these are very important things, indicators that private education is going up. There is more trust in private education. Their fees have also relatively gone down. There's been a huge spurt in the private middle class school going fees. And the fees has been down, and there's been a huge spurt in those kind of schools. So lately the number of school going students in private school that has increased, but just after COVID it has declined again because of the stress in income levels, right? But if you see the other kind of stats, for example, the availability of teachers in government schools, this is the availability of teachers in government schools, 50%. And as compared to private schools, the availability teacher to pupil ratio is less. See, the ideal proportion is one teacher for 30 students, right? But having more number of government schools but less number of teachers, and all these teachers are also, it is evidenced that the teachers in government school are available for teaching only for less than 20% of their total time. They are also deployed for administrative work, election funding, election duties, and other duties like COVID, etc. So the idea is to keep funding the public institutions for governance and for education, and that is how India's education will prosper. Some important reforms that have been suggested are: first, See, opening of school does not mean that children are going back. So ensure 100% enrollment, especially girl students, especially those from rural areas, marginalized communities, right? Ensure that the learning recovery happens, right? So that the learning poverty subsides. For this, teachers will have to dedicate extra hours with students. There has to be a revised curriculum. Public expenditure needs to be increased from 3.5% to 6% urgently in education. Children have been going through mental issues, so counselors have to be provided to schools, and also ensure Poshan Abhiyan, that means food security in schools, and schemes like water, sanitation, and hygiene. These are important mandates for school, so that and the government, so that the children grow very fast. A scheme, good scheme like Nipun Bharat, the national initiative for proficiency in reading and understanding and numeracy. This is a great scheme, so that student develop learning efficacy. Right, education is an equalizer. It should not be providing intergenerational inequality in education services. So, therefore, to understand this, we will have to focus more on government education in the present times. Now, a quick question for you people. Mention 5 issues related to learning poverty in India and 3 ways to tackle this challenge. A fairly easy question, but then exercise your mind to type down this in the comment section. And if you like this initiative, share some love through likes, comments, and subscribes. If you have got questions, just put it down in the comment section and we will ensure to get back to you. Thank you for watching.